Hey folks, it's time for another installment in my Zill Heroes series. Today I am speaking with the amazing ladies of the Baksana Ensemble, a belly dance troupe out of the Portland, Oregon area. These ladies have been on my radar for a number of years. I have been watching them online and totally loving what they are doing with finger cymbals. And I had the pleasure of finally meeting them in person about 2 years ago when I went to Jambala in Portland. Today, we are going to sit down and talk to these ladies about how it is they got started with the finger cymbals and what led to the creation of Baksana as the finger cymbal force that it is today. One of the things I love most about this interview is just how diverse the backgrounds of each of the dancers are and their introduction to finger cymbals. In fact, a few of them weren't really fans before joining the troupe, but obviously now they are total Zill powerhouses. And I find that Baksana is always pushing the envelope for troupe performances with the finger cymbals, and I really enjoy what they do. We'll talk a bit about their Zill notation book, about the Finger Cymbal Awareness February that is just around the corner, and then about tips and tricks that they have to encourage dancers to really get to understand, know, and love the finger cymbals. Be sure to watch to the end of the interview to see a special clip of Baksana doing exactly what it is that they do best, throwing it down with the finger cymbals. So join me today as we take a deep dive into finger cymbal playing with the amazing Baksana Ensemble.
All right, thank you, ladies, so much for joining me. I'm so excited to have such fantastic Zillers all in one virtual space together. I have been a huge fan from afar and from not so afar for many years, so it's exciting to finally have the opportunity to chat with you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much
Yeah.
for hosting us.
Oh my goodness, it's my pleasure for sure. So before we dive into all things Zill fabulous, let's go ahead and just take a moment for you each to introduce yourself in case folks don't know who you are. Obviously, you are collectively the fabulous ladies of Baksana, but I think it would be great for people to know a little bit more about where you have come from, how you came to be part of the troupe, and maybe how Zills have figured into your life before Baksana, if they did. So if you ladies just want to, I guess Danielle, if we want to start with you.
Sure, yeah. I'm Danielle. I am the founding member and the dance director of Baksana. And the other director, the music director, is Paul Evan-Smith. And so before Baksana, I basically learned how to play finger cymbals by locking myself in a room and not letting myself out until I got it, because I was about to go on tour with a band and I wanted to use finger cymbals as a percussion instrument. Before that point, I was pretty intimidated by them. And so that was really the impetus. That group was called the _ Orchestra. And that was my like pre-Baksana finger cymbal experience. I always loved rhythms and, I really dove in and fell in love with the music, with Arabic music. And so I really wanted to really physically kind of play that out, not just in my body, but to be a part of the band when I was touring. And so I did that for a few years, and then Baksana happened. Yeah.
Carla, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Carla and I'm from Brazil. I moved to Portland, I think it's been almost 4 years. And my first year here, it was very great. Before I moved here, I went to many workshops, including Baksana's workshops. And I was really a fan of their work and how they, oh my God, there was a Jambala that they just jammed live and they created stuff on stage, and I was like, oh my God, I want to be part of this one day. But I would never imagine that someday I would be with those girls, amazing inspiration. Before that, in Brazil, I played zills before, but not in this level as a dancer. I studied with my teacher that is from she's from Lebanon, so I had some thing like it was an introduction.
Baven, do you want to introduce yourself?
I am Baven. I am originally from California, but I've lived in Portland for a long time. I spent some time on the East Coast as well, in Boston. And my Zillaverse, I guess, came into being when I was starting to study belly dance as a teenager at the studio that was run by Paulette Reese-Denis. An acronym for that is GCDC, and that playing finger cymbals was kind of integrated into my dance training, my specifically tribal or ATS style dance training from the very beginning, like super early on. So it was something that was terrifying, but I was forced to do often. So that helped. And I enjoyed it, but I never really felt like it was my jam, because it was just all just very specific, like kind of a very specific style of playing that like I never really got to a point where I was like really exploring different sound qualities or things like that. So I was like, this is cool, and I think the potential to do something really interesting with finger cymbals exists, and I have not discovered that yet, so whatever. So it was kind of like meh for me for a while. But my introduction to Baksana was I was in Boston, and Danielle and I have been friends for a long time and have known each other for a long time. We've gone on tours together and so on and so forth. And so she was talking about this cool thing that she was starting. And I was like, I'm trying to start this busking group in Boston, but it's really hard because I don't really know, like I'm still learning the community, and I'm trying to get people on board with this because people are really freaked out by like that, like the community that I was involved in was kind of some younger dancers like earlier on in their journey. So it was kind of like coaxing them into the idea of like, what if we do a busking group and like play instruments? And they were just like, full Home Alone, like scared Kevin McAllister face. But so I was trying to figure out how to make that work, and Danielle was telling me about what she was doing, and I was like, oh my God, this is exactly what I want. Like, this is the coolest thing ever. It's like all the beauty and magic of doing what we were doing on tour without the drama and the nonsense and the sleeping in bathtubs. And like, so it's a long story. We could get into that later. Not for this. But and I remember I think it was at Tribal Fest or some festival that I had come to the West Coast for. I saw her and she was telling me about what she was doing, and I saw them perform, and I was like, yes, this is exactly what I want to be doing. This is everything that I want to be working on. This is so inspiring. And they had like postcards, and I still have it. I can't remember where I put it, but I took one of the postcards and I was like, Danielle doesn't need to know about this, but I'm putting this on a vision board, and I don't know how, and I don't know when, but by golly, I'm going to get in Baksana. And I like had it on this little vision board of like other stuff that was cool and exciting, inspiring for me. And I think that was in 2014. I might've been Go-matic at the time, but anyways, I had the thing on the board, and then crazy thing happened, and we ended up moving back to Portland. And then Danielle was like, so do you want to learn some finger cymbal crazy stuff? And I was like, no, yes, sounds terrifying, yes. Mm-hmm. And then I did, and then and then I was in, and I was like, well, that worked out just swimmingly, exactly how I wanted it to. So it was definitely super inspiring to me to watch it from afar, and then to like integrate into the group, and to just have my eyes open like this all the time at every rehearsal for the last 5 years. Carla understands. It has been really cool, because the thing about Baksana is, as soon as you think you know what you're doing, that evil genius redhead over there creates some kind of new thing. And that's where we are right now. So it's very exciting times, but I've never had my brain stretched and freaked out and massaged in so many exciting and beautiful ways. So it is always an adventure, and I am always just so honored and grateful to be part of this magical, crazy brain massaging group.
That's awesome. Morgan, would you take a moment to introduce yourself, please?
Yes, I'm Morgan. I feel like I'm a little maybe luckier than David and Carla, because I got to start with Baksana from the very beginning, so I wasn't as thrown into the fire perhaps as everyone else. Yeah, before Baksana, my first teacher did introduce finger cymbals. I was not a fan because it seemed extremely complicated to dance and play something at the same time. How is that a possibility? I did not understand it. So, you know, I knew that they existed, and that was that. That was pretty much it. It wasn't until I moved to the West Coast, suddenly I was surrounded by amazing finger cymbal players and amazing musicians. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I should probably work on my skills then, since everybody I know out here is dancing with cymbals, and I want to dance with people. I don't consider myself a musician, so it's been really good to try to be a musician. So yeah, that's me.
That's fantastic. And you are a musician. I always tell all of my dancers, I'm like, the minute you strap those suckers on your fingers, you are a musician, like it or not. I'd love to hear from Makita. Could you introduce yourself, please?
Hello, Makita. I am calling in from Cowlitz Land in Washington, and I'm originally from Alaska. And when I lived in the Bay Area, I was introduced to finger cymbals through American Cabaret with my first teacher. And I had a very limited understanding. I kind of saw it as a prop, as a part of a costume. And I had no clue how much more there was to it. And it feels like the journey just continues, because the musicality is just like a new level of brain activity. And to really, for me, it feels like a mindful practice, because to think and move and then add musicality and feel, it's and especially in playing live music, there's like a language that you can speak, and so it feels just like a stretch all the time. And I just feel like a lifelong learner, and this group is definitely given life during these times to just focus on a thing and like make things simple. And it's been really helpful to just learn a new language. Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, I love these stories. It's great. It's interesting how people came from so many different backgrounds, and more than one of you were not fans of the finger cymbals to begin with, which I hope gives other people hope, right? Because there are a lot of people out there who have perhaps a love-hate or perhaps just a hate-hate relationship with their finger cymbals. And I feel like there is hope for reform, right? There's the possibility that given the right scenario, or perhaps the right troupe or the right training, the right teacher, that everybody can become a fan if they're shown a way to get into it that isn't too intimidating, that excites them. And if they keep that idea of being the lifelong learner and being willing to be challenged, you kind of keep that alive, right? So awesome. I love this. So I'm desperate to know now, Danielle, like you talk about coming up with this busking group, like what was the formation of Baksana? Like how did it begin? And how did, I feel like I know you ladies for your finger cymbal work. Obviously, there's a lot of other things that you do, but I think what you do right now with finger cymbals is amazing and very interesting, right? Very different. And so how did that sort of progress within the line of who Baksana is as a troupe?
Okay. Yeah. So Baksana, literally, the idea for it started at the Datura headquarters. I was working with Rachel and Sol, and Sol and I were having a conversation about reminiscing about the San Francisco Bay Area and the musicians down there, and the festivals and the music that was just everywhere. And there were a lot of young people playing in like Balkan brass bands and different various groups, and busking was alive and well. And I had done a lot of busking when I was touring with Underscore Orchestra, and really loved that. Like it just kind of became a part of, oh yeah, like this is what something that artists do, you know, and or one way of doing it. And it just feels very real and honest. You know, you're just out in the street, you have like a moment to catch somebody as they walk by, they stop, they turn around, they watch. Like it's this really interesting interaction that you have. And so we were talking about all of those things, and wishing that there would be something like that in Portland. And then he's just like, why don't you do it? And I was like, well, I don't really know. And so that kind of just started out as that curiosity. And, you know, Morgan and Makita and I at the time were working with Rachel in her datura projects, and she had given us an amazing foundation and a lot of information to start. Rachel at some point walked in the room and we were like, hey, wouldn't this be cool? And she's like, yeah, I don't really have time for that. And I was like, great, that's wonderful. But they both kind of gave their blessing and were like, I had been looking for a way to connect with everybody outside of the datura projects as well, because Rachel really kind of drew a group of people together. It wasn't always exactly the same people, but we would work together like through the winter, and then she would tour through the spring. And so I was like, spring, like summer, outside, busking, dancing. I want to keep working with my friends in town. So that's kind of where I was coming from originally. Coming from touring and coming from, playing a lot with the Underscore Orchestra, I was already really connected to the music, but that wasn't a thought right away. Like, I wasn't like, I'm going to make this like a finger cymbal focused ensemble. I just really wanted to continue, playing with my friends and, people that were really inspiring to me. We gathered other musicians around from Portland. Paul, I reached out to Paul right away and was like, you'd be perfect for this, because Paul is a professional musician, but busks a lot, and improvisation is a really big thing for him. Improvisation is a really big thing for me. So that pairing worked out, and we gathered some musicians and just started kind of working on stuff. Yeah, the finger cymbals at first were fairly basic. I don't think we were using very many sounds besides just the doom or the open ring sound, the tek or the clap sound. And we actually started first with like the structured improv. I think we had maybe 3 of Rachel's datura style combinations, and that was our jumping off point. So we started with those and kind of quickly realized that we needed more than 3 things to improvise with. We were like, this is great, Rachel, you're gonna do some more? She's like, yeah, it's coming. And so while we were patiently waiting for that, we just started to make our own vocabulary. I started to, write our own vocabulary that we could use to dance with, very much inspired by what Rachel was doing, very much inspired by the Renaissance Fair. I am a huge Rennie, I've been at Renaissance Fair for over 10 years. And so Hobby Roo was a humongous inspiration for me, very large inspiration for me. And they were inspired by the Salempores, so that's kind of the lineage of where we got our movement style from and our playing style, and just the adventurousness of being willing to try new things. We wrote our first Zill a cappella where we were just playing finger cymbals. It was Morgan, Makita, and I. And so that was where we first started playing around with different sounds, because it was just us playing finger cymbals. We weren't playing along with a group. And I think that maybe was the spark moment of, let's really see what these things can do and how they can express what we're trying to express. And we can create sounds that match what our body is doing in a different way. But our go-to first is always, can we do this with live music? How can we do this with live music first? Because that interaction is very potent, and part of what we were, focusing on from the very beginning in Baksana is having musicians and dancers together, like creating something.
Like, if you have the ability to accompany yourself, to create the music that you dance to, and then of course, like in a pinch, how many times have you been at a gig with like DJ iPod, right, and it stops working? And I've always been so thankful. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I have these on my fingers, or else I'd be totally screwed. I think that it puts the power in your hands, right? Even if you are performing with an ensemble, to like add something to that and embellish in a way that like accompanies your dance well. And I want every dancer to realize that power, that they can have that power, it's a powerful thing. That's fantastic. So I want to know a little bit about the book that you put out, the finger cymbal notation book that came out a couple of years ago, which is now in its 2nd printing, right? Putting the book together and having like a more standardized format of notation and counting I think appeals to the musician in me, right? Because I don't know about you ladies and how you learned to play the finger cymbals, but when I learned with, I think, what people tend to call now like the American counting method or something, where you count, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's how I learned. And I learned great. It worked great. Obviously now I go back to my musical roots because I was a musician before I was a dancer, and I use musical counting because it just makes so much more sense and it integrates so much better with the dancing. And of course, the book that you've produced uses that musical counting notation as well. And so I'm curious, like, when did the idea come up? So why make this book other than to make me incredibly happy? And like, how is it working out for you, like introducing dancers to this idea of musical counting? Because I've found that the finger cymbals are complex, right? They are a challenge. And sometimes when I try to take it that one step further and be like, and now we're going to write eighth notes and quarter notes, and people are just like that's the end. That's the end. They never come back. And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry, And so I love that you're holding the torch, but like, how do you introduce it in a way that people don't run away? How does that work?
Yeah. Good question. I'm still working on that.
Okay, good. We're together on this one then.
Yes. Yeah. The idea to dive into this project came from a conversation with Paul and I. And like I said, Baksana, we are live music, that's 99% of the time. A very occasionally we'll, do a set with the DJ or something, but like we're created as a musical and dance ensemble. So, at one point, I was writing notes down, writing in whatever note way I was writing to try to, write down all the compositions that go with the combinations. And Paul was like, what? And I was like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And he's like, excuse me, and so I was really trying to communicate with him. I was like, this, and he's like, you're not playing in 5, and I was like, what do you mean? And I was like, oh yeah, he's like, go think about, because I used to play viola and, percussion and stuff when I was in high school. And he's like, what are you actually trying to say to me? And like, we're sitting down trying to have these conversations. And I was like, we need a bridge. We wanted to offer a way that people maybe would have a common language with musicians and dancers, and the dancers, would be able to hand a musician a piece of, finger cymbal notation, and they could at least know the rhythm of what you're playing. That's just been, that was our goal. And, starting to first and foremost kind of catalog what I was writing, and so Paul and I could have conversations about things, and I wouldn't have to just like speak it into my phone or rely on videos or, rely on like, dancer counts or that sort of thing. So yeah, that was where we started with it. To me, it really expands the possibilities, and it's kind of like playing Mad Libs in a way where I can just like write out like okay, there's quarter notes, eighth notes, 16th notes, triplets, and like it helps you think of a composition like as a body of work, not just like individual sounds or an individual pattern. So for me, it's helped like kind of expand my the awareness of possibilities, and also helped me to communicate to other musicians, and makes it really easy for other people who know how to read finger cymbal notation to give it to them and say, here it is. And if you get good enough at sight reading, then that's it, and you play it. You don't need a whole 3-hour class to try to teach somebody how to play something. You can just, here's the piece of paper, go ahead.
That's great. I love the idea of like handing someone a piece of like sheet music for finger cymbals, and they could just pick up their cymbals and play it. I mean, musicians do this all the time. My husband's a jazz musician. He gets like a chart for a gig and he just shows up and plays it, like no rehearsal needed. Right? Like how magical would that be to have that same power to be like, here's your part. You have like Zill Symphony, right? And you like hand out all the parts, and people are just like, oh yeah, cool. I can just play along if I know how to read this notation. I always like to encourage people who, maybe aren't giant finger cymbal fans yet, to know that there's hope. And so I'm wondering, like Carla, as the newer member of the troupe and coming in, and like you said, you had a little bit of experience, but nothing like what these ladies are doing, and you jumped in when they were, you know, pretty established with their Zill badassery, right? And so, like, how did you process that, and what words of wisdom could you give to, you know, budding Zillists from like what you've learned in the last few years with Baksana?
Well, it is a process. What I have to say, it's not like, oh, I started today and tomorrow I have it, you know? What I learned with them is like, okay, it's scary. Face it. It is scary, but you still can do it. You know, if you be patient with yourself, with lots of love, and practice, in a consistent way, you can do it. And then Morgan says, okay, you can start like, 70 BPM, and then you go up to 80, and then suddenly you are in 160 or 140, because Baksana's, let me tell you, Baksana's music, it's always more than 120, which means you have to have it. I'll reveal my secret here. In the first year, almost second year, I just, pretended that I was playing, but I wasn't, because I didn't have in the, BPMs that you know, it is a thing. And then now I confess that I am kind of getting there, but I will have it. And that's the spirit that I think everyone has to, have towards the Zills and, Baksana created, because it's such a new, wonderful way to dance with Zills. It's not like, it's not, I haven't seen this before. It's not just like a simple way to see Zills and dance. It's a partnership, a real partnership between Zills and dance. It's not just like, oh, the Zills is like an embellishment in dance. No, they are partners. In Baksana way to see, they are partners. So you have to have the dance skills, but you have to have the instrument skills too. So lots of patience, very consistent practice. And I think if you want to do it, you can save like at least 5 minutes a day to do like a little practice and increase your skills on Zills. I'm still getting there, but I will.
And I think we're all still getting there. Thank you for your honesty and for bearing your secret in public. I appreciate your honesty.
Carla, we knew, and we love you anyway.
You can't pull one over on these ladies. They knew there was no sound coming out of those Zills. That's awesome. But no, you have the determination, right? Anything that is worth learning is going to be a challenge, right? And so it's just having the determination, knowing it's just like that steady uphill climb. And I think it's a work in progress for everyone. Like, I mean, woe be the day when I say, yep, and now I'm done. Like, I like, that's
so
weird.
Sad.
Yeah, like, well, yeah, now I know all the things I want to know, and I can lay down and die. I like, what's the point, right? Like, keep going, right? Keep going. So I love that. I love that you mentioned the Finger Cymbal February, because I definitely wanted someone to speak on that, because it's coming up. We're getting close to February, and this is my favorite challenge of the entire year. So I will definitely be joining you all again as a participant. And so would somebody be willing to speak to the Finger Cymbal February, what it is and how folks can get involved?
Sure. Well, Finger Cymbal Awareness Month happens every February. It's been going on for about 4 years now, I believe, 3 to 4 years. It takes place on Instagram, and the whole idea behind it is to just just try it. Just try playing cymbals. This year we are putting together a combination that will gradually amp up in complexity. So you'll start out nice and gentle with a few sounds, some gentle patterns, and then I made something challenging for the very end. But it's all about building your speed, your strength, your endurance, getting comfortable with how to wear cymbals if you've never played them before. And we'll have a different aspect of cymbals that we'll focus on every day of the week. So, breaking down the combination, then we'll do, okay, let's do drills at these different BPMs so you can slowly build in your strength. We'll have some improv days because it's fun to improv with cymbals, and I'll be doing more complex drills this year, so combining cymbals with some body isolations. And at the end of the month, we'll put all of those things together, and hopefully we would love to share if people are doing these dances and they film themselves and post them to Instagram. We would love to reshare so we can show what all of the hard work that people have done throughout the month. Yeah, it's a really fun time, and even if you've never played finger cymbals before, it's great to just jump in and try some of the exercises and see how it goes.
Oh, some people just do like one of the days. They're like, oh, okay, this year I am going to learn the notation. So then they just pop on Tuesdays or whatever day is the notation day, and they, we'll work on writing that, and they just post that part of the practice, So I think our goal is to really completely just raise awareness about finger cymbals as a musical instrument, that they are not a prop only, that they have a lot of diversity, and there's a lot of ways you can explore with your finger cymbals. So we really do encourage beginners to just, if you're on Instagram, to just join in at any point that you want to. You could just do the drills, you could just do the combo, you could just do the finger cymbals, the notation, you could just do the improv. And so even if we don't expect everybody to do everything, if you do, that's awesome, fun, great for you. But if you do one thing a week, also great for you, that's great. We're just really trying to connect with people and share our love for finger cymbals.
Yeah, I think that the challenge is a really great way to sort of just turn people on to the possibilities. And I love that you have the themed days. And I never thought about that, like kind of jumping in and doing, one of the themes if you wanted to keep it, something that felt really attainable and you weren't having to do it every day. And that way it makes it accessible to people of all different levels. It is, like I said, one of my favorite challenges, and I always learn something new, and I am always challenged by it. Just when I think I'm getting it, just like someone said earlier, then I'm like, oh, bam, what did they come up with? No, what? I'm going to do what? But it's cool. And then like you said, no matter what you do, whether you do all of the days or one of the days, it's all Zill practice, right? And that's the point, right? Get in there, find them, put them on, and have fun with it, and just sort of enjoy that process. And I think that if people can come to this with an open-minded exploration in mind, and just like, it's not about sounding awesome, it's not about getting it all right, it's just about like exploring and embracing the process, right? Because it's all the process, that's all we have, it's all the process, right? And that's
totally. And speaking to that too, like, every day of our lives is Finger Cymbal Awareness Month. Sometimes it feels like a whole month that practice goes by. So like, if people are seeing this later, you can still go to Baksana Ensemble on Instagram. And if it's August, just practice, try, like, go back through and try it out. I try to keep it in the highlights section. Some of the posts that we make. So, at any point, it's not, I don't want people to feel like I'm not getting it all done in February, so I'll go and do something else now. Like, we're gifting these, sections of practice and teaching for free for people to use whenever they want to, any time of year.
It really is a lot of fun, and a beautiful community is built up around the challenge. And I always love following the tag and just watching to see, people all over the world and what they are doing. And it's just so exciting. I think especially right now with everything happening in the world, that we can all come together around something as lovely as music and dance and finger cymbals is a nice change of pace. Yes.
Yes.
I'm really looking forward to it for sure. Awesome. Well, this is great. Is there anything else that anyone would like to talk about, like anything that you've got coming down the pipeline?
I think right now we're always adding to our Patreon. We have over 80 classes on our Patreon right now. So we are expanding. At the start, it was a lot of me teaching, some of the combos that I made, but Morgan has combos, Baven has combos now. Makita and Carla are bringing in some practices. So it's a cool way to connect with each of us and also to support us. We've been saving, some of the Patreon money to buy stuff like proper footwear for Renaissance Fair, things like that. So it's a great way to, I think, if you want to support a group or anybody, Patreon is pretty good with that. So we're working on our Patreon, and I just released this year for the first time an official pathway to learn our Baksana vocabulary. So we do choreographies, and we also do this improv vocabulary that we have. And eventually we'll have, I think this year, we're going to try to put out another album of music. Paul is slowly working on composing things, and doing that in a pandemic time is a little challenging because we can't all get together and like play in a sound studio with masks off. So who knows how long it's going to take, but Paul is working on some new music too.
We, in honor of not having the Ren Fair last year, made a short film that is currently being edited, so that will be coming out soon. But it's I'm just so excited about it because we were working on it today, editing it. But it's very silly, or it's very serious. It's a very serious film about our sad times missing the Renaissance Fair. It's a high art film about serious things, and it will come out soon, and I'm very excited. And I can't even talk about it without laughing.
I'm very
ridiculous.
intrigued.
But that is a project. It's very be intrigued because it's wild.
Oh yes, I love it. I can't wait to see it. That sounds amazing. Oh my gosh. Okay, now I'm excited too. That's awesome. So one quick lightning round of questions. I'm gonna just shoot questions at each one of you that are short and sweet, that you can just give me the first answer that comes to your head. So I'm gonna start with Makita. I want to know, how many pairs of Zills do you own?
I have two. And I need to get my. I need to be put my elastic on them. So that is my winter goal.
Yes, get your elastics on your Zill. Absolutely. Wait a minute, now I gotta know, like, what pair do you have your elastics on? You have elastics on at least one pair, right?
Yes, I think we have the brass Afghani. I think that is the one that that's the one that I use, and I have a pair that's it's so lovely, and I just look at it. I look at it, and I think I'll one day. But I'm just using the one. I'm just trying to focus on the one.
The others are currently for decor. I love it. I love the brass Afghanis too. I use them all the time. So tell me, Carla, what's your favorite pair of finger cymbals? Is it also the brass Afghanis? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like the Baksana official finger cymbal.
I have wood ones that I because of Baven is a huge inspiration of like improvisation and everything. Those wood ones go so well with Brazilian music. So I kind of mix Brazilian music with the wood zills over them. So it's cool.
Okay, Morgan, this next question is for you. And this is typically a question when I ask finger cymbal players. They have like an answer to it, but I have a feeling I know what your answer is going to be. So I want to know, right hand dominant, left hand dominant, or continuously alternating?
Oh my gosh. Well, for Baksana, we do continuously alternating. We are, for the movements themselves, we're working on right side and left side. But I also do Salampur format, so I do right hand dominant and left hand dominant. But I think the most important thing is just be ambidextrous is good. That's good.
That's what I thought you were going to say. And almost nobody gives that answer, right? Like most people have like a method that's just more comfortable to them. And I feel like it's from your videos and the class I took with you in Portland a couple of years ago, where I was just like, ambidextrous is totally the way to go. And so like everything I do now Is ambidextrous.
Yeah, you can only go as fast as your slowest hand. So if you know.
Mm-hmm. Very true. I love that. I love that. Okay, one more quick question. Okay, I want to know, Baven, usually the question is what is your favorite quarantine activity? But I want to know about you ladies as a troupe in quarantine. What is keeping you together as a troupe in quarantine?
Oh man, I mean, honestly, just being able to, I'm so grateful that we have a backyard to gather in to have rehearsals distanced and masked. I think just being able to like be in the same space and work on the material, or even because I know in the very beginning we were like, okay, well, we have to switch to Zoom rehearsals, and that with the sound and the latency, that's just not going to work if we're trying to get really dialed in, playing finger cymbals. Like that was just, I'm glad that we didn't even attempt it because it would have just been depressing to me personally. So we waited and started to work together distanced outside, which has been really, really great, even in the dead of winter, because like Baksana rehearsals, the thing about Baksana rehearsals is this. Even if you think you know what you're doing, as we've all said before, and Carla and I have lots of feelings about this also. I know Makita now too, that she's back. Even if you think you know what you're doing, you don't, because Danielle's going to change it. And then Morgan's going to make some crazy something happen. And then you just fail so spectacularly. It's always hilarious. If you make a mistake in Baksana with the format, it's the funniest thing that's ever happened because it's a complete catastrophe. So it's just like, even if I totally messed everything up, my brain feels crazy, but I'm just happy. And it's just such a great feeling. I like always look forward to it, as terrifying as it is. And so I've been really grateful for us. Like, it's inspired me obviously to practice on my own, of course, more than I maybe would have. And yeah, I'm just super grateful that we, inspire each other and push each other in our own respective ways. And it's just been like such a gift, especially during this really crazy like quarantine COVID-19 time.
So powerful to have your tribe, right? To have your people that bring you love and joy and ridiculous situations on a regular basis. It's so necessary these days. Yes. Awesome. I love it. I love it. So Danielle, before we sign off, if you could tell people, where can they find Baksana out in the world?
So if you go to our website, baksanaensemble.com, there's I don't even know, maybe called Instapage or something like that. There's a links. So there's one page where we kind of list out our Bandcamp. We're mostly on Instagram. We post things occasionally on Facebook, and then we have some stuff on YouTube. We have our Bandcamp where you can buy our music. Our books are on lulu.com. Many weekends in the summer are spent at the Renaissance Fair, the Oregon Renaissance Fair, the Washington Renaissance Fair, soon to be the Pirate Festival in Washington as well. And sometimes we go down to the Northern California Renaissance Fair.
Fantastic. Well, I just want to thank you ladies so much for joining me for this conversation. It's so nice to commune with fellow Zill enthusiasts, and it was awesome to hear sort of the story of how you all got into the finger cymbals and how Baksana grew to be like the amazing ensemble that it is today. So I look forward to our dance paths crossing again very soon, and I will definitely see you all over Instagram every single day in February, and I'm very grateful for that. So thank you all for what you do, and thank you for being here today. Yeah.
Thank you.
enjoyed this special Zill Hero interview. I know for me, getting to know each of these ladies just a little bit more was really special and super eye-opening. Together, they create magic on stage, and it was really cool to see the different personalities behind who it is that Baksana brings to us on the stage. I highly encourage you to go out and check out their Finger Cymbal February, Finger Cymbal Awareness Month. Even if it's not anywhere near February when you see this video, find them on Instagram at Baksana Ensemble and check out those videos. It is a wealth of information. They share such great knowledge as far as finger cymbal basics, sounds, drills, notation, and improvisation. So it's one of my favorite challenges online, and I do it every single year. I am always challenged, I always grow, and I always have a ton of fun. Be sure to check the links with this video so that you can catch up with Baksana on the internet and hopefully take a class from them or join their Patreon so that you can learn from the source. Thank you so much for joining me. Happy zilling, and I'll see you on the dance floor soon.